Yeah. You gotta work. You gotta work, grind, shine, it's mine. Gotta show everybody it's my time. Getting here, you gotta work, grind, shine. Never mind who talking down, cause they lying. Don't talk, you gotta work.
Let the conversation begin. This is Let's Talk with your host, Carl Lee.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Carl Lee, and this is Let's Talk. Today, I'm hoping that what the show for today, I am so excited about because I got somebody who I think can do something to my co-host to hopefully shut him up and make him be comfortable with what I think is right, because I think it's going to be on my side today. But so I'm not really sure, but everybody knows Hollis Lewis, my co-host. He's here, and I have a great guest who can answer all of our questions. From Marshall University, the athletic director. Christian, give us all the good stuff about you, where you came from before you got to Marshall, all the good stuff.
Well, let's talk about settling differences. My gosh, you two. All right, is that what we're going to get into today?
Yes, man, this is going to be tough. This is going to be we won't throw blows, but it'll seem like we might.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, point counterpoint is always fun. You know, we talk about this a lot as a staff, right? You can't make a great decision without having discourse.
We have that.
Sincere debate, right?
We have that.
And then eventually it softens into a dialogue where people are hearing one another.
Yeah.
And then you make a great decision. So let's try to get to great decisions.
Well, see, here's the thing. We need people like you to come in to make that decision, because he's never going to listen to me.
He not?
No,
Yeah.
he's not
I
going to
agree
listen to me.
sometimes.
Barely.
When he got a point.
Yeah. All right, Carl, I'm 19 months on the job at Marshall University. I serve as the director of athletics. I was hired by one of the best presidents in the country, Brad Smith.
Yes,
I think you guys know who we got leading our ship.
Yeah.
And, man, I got to tell you, working for that gentleman is a privilege and an honor.
Yeah.
And you don't hear that often.
It is the most important thing, and we forget how important it is to work for someone that you care about, that cares about you.
100%.
It doesn't always happen either. You take a job because you want the financial reward or you want the responsibility. Yeah. And then you get to meet somebody that genuinely pours in you, genuinely cares about you. That's what we got at Marshall.
And while you're on that, just let me ask, because I was on the West Virginia State University Presidential Search Committee.
Right on.
And we chose a candidate outside of the realm of education. He's a law degree, he's a lawyer, Army guy, but he's worked in education. So working for somebody like Mr. Smith, President Smith, who's outside the realm of education, who's being more innovative and thinking outside of the box, how was that sort of working for somebody like that who's thinking like that?
You hit it. An ACM edition, good, bad, or indifferent. Yeah. You know, I was a dean, then I was a provost.
Exactly.
I
that's
grew up in the academy. Yeah. This is my understanding of it. And that's fine, and it works at a lot of places, but when you have a president that was a CEO that thinks about expenses and resources and revenue opportunities. And looks at things from that lens, this is a business. Higher education is a business.
Yes.
And we got to actually run it like that, especially now where enrollments are shrinking. And today's modern student and family, parents, want more for their son or daughter than just a degree. What's their career going to be when they get out? How little debt are they going to have when they leave your institution? Brad Smith's the perfect president for that at the perfect time.
I love that train of thought, because I'm an adjunct professor. I'm very active in my college community and on campus, and I think that we have to have people who think outside the box, who can bring those innovative ideas to not only bolster our academic programs and everything like that, but also can make our college experience more robust for our students, athletes, and the like. So I just want to throw that in there.
Spot on.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Everett.
Yeah, 19 months on the job, came from the University of Pittsburgh. I served as the deputy athletic director there. I was there for 5 years. For me, I always try to graduate a class is the way I think about it. And, so staying 5 years tends to be the way you do it in college athletics. I think a lot of people have adopted sort of that mindset. Like, let's see how I perform after I graduate a class. So, I always use Kenny Pickett as the example. Kenny Pickett was a freshman when I started. Nice. He was a fifth-year senior when he graduated, and we won a bunch of ball games, an ACC championship. He got drafted in the first round, and then Brad Smith called me to be the athletic director at Marshall. And the timing was perfect. We
Right,
graduated a class, and our football program progressed really nicely. So did a bunch of other things at Pitt. But for me, it was about the opportunity to work for Brad and represent Marshall.
Nice.
All right. So one of the conversations that we're going to have today is going to be about NIL. Is it working? Is it benefiting everybody? And I'll start the argument, okay? I'll start the argument by saying this. I don't have a problem with the NIL on its face. What I have a problem with, what I don't like, is if I'm getting $1 million, somebody else is getting $300,000, and then there are guys who are not playing but I need. They may not even be stars, but I need to help me be good or great. Not getting anything. I have the concept, if you're going to do NIL, then it's based on the team. There's a cap, and then there's cap for the top player. Then there is the payment of guys who play.
Yeah.
And then there's payment for those who don't play.
That's an interesting way of looking at it.
Because I need you. I need the practice guy. I need the guy who's holding the ball for the kicker.
Yeah.
I need him. I need the snapper who may only snap on punt and field goal.
Yeah.
I need him as bad as I need the quarterback, the wide receiver, the running back. So I think NIL, we need to restructure it to make it fair and to make it beneficial for everybody that's in the system. Anybody got to fight?
Yeah.
You want to go first?
Yeah. I mean, I think I would agree with you, but I think what happens is that I think we're past that point. I think the NCAA had an opportunity to do that, particularly like when we talk about the Ed O'Bannon lawsuits and different things of that nature, when they had the marketing, the games, and obviously the jersey sales and everything else, the money that comes into the programs through endorsement deals and shoe companies and different things of that nature. I think they had that opportunity years ago to do that, to make sort of a revenue sharing model. But now I think when we talk about NIL, it's name, image, likeness. So I don't know how we take somebody who's a superstar linebacker or quarterback or basketball player and ask them to put their money into a pot to be shared with others. So I don't know how we do that on that level, other than everybody just having a team deal.
All right, but so you don't necessarily know how we do it.
Yeah, I do.
But do you agree with the idea, the concept of that would be better?
I think it has to be a part of it has to be a revenue sharing model, not in totality. I think those guys who are superstars, we can't necessarily block the Shador Sanders. We can't necessarily block them from getting their fair share, right? Getting what they're
But we're gonna make them.
at.
But my question, Christian, is like, okay, so I'm gonna make this kid a millionaire before he even gets off campus. And then I got another kid who's got nothing. He's gonna walk off here, and I don't mean nothing. He's gonna walk off with his degree, and played 4 years.
Yeah.
Okay, and maybe not good enough necessarily to get into the revenue part of it, but he's just good enough. He's a guard, and he blocks well, and he's the best guy that you got. But he ain't NFL material. He's just a guy that's just doing his work. He comes out of there with his degree. He's happy. He's got to start at the bottom and work his way up in any company that he goes to. Christian, I don't see how that can be fair.
So many things here, Carl. Okay, let's first just acknowledge Carl's lens, right? He has an NFL lens,
Yeah.
right? And
Absolutely, yeah.
we are still amateur college athletes, right?
Yes.
I know it doesn't feel like that anymore. I know it's Pollyanna. I know we have free agency. I know guys are getting bags. I get it. But we still have this image that the undergraduate degree that is being paid for still matters and still counts. Now, it doesn't, unfortunately, in the minds of most of our young student athletes. So we have to look at it case by case, Carl, not holistically that we need everyone and they should all have similar packages. So we break it down like this, and I know this is going to be a little bit crude, but let's just go ahead and call it out what it is. There are certain kids who want cash. There are certain kids who want a condo. They need a place to live. And there are certain kids who want a car. And everyone has a different scenario. Those are the assets in name, image, and likeness. Those are the things that we offer for you doing something on behalf of an entity, a corporate partner, a community service, an agency. And there are kids who, hey, my mom and dad are going to come into town. They're going to be here. They bought me a place. I don't need a place to live, but I need this. I need a car. I need to get around, and I need some cash, right? And then there's another kid who's like, look, I got a car. My parents took care of that. I need a place to live. And then there's another kid who just, I don't need a car or a place to live. I just need as much financial security as you can provide. Everything is different. Every scenario is different. And you got to treat it case by case. Even though you're correct, everyone matters, right?
Right.
All those roles and responsibilities are critically important to individual success, right? No matter what position you might play. And then what will the market bear?
Yeah.
What will the market bear? And our market is pretty fluid right now, right? If you grow into something really special, you're probably going to get a bag from someone bigger.
Right.
If you're a really good player, but you love where you're at and you're committed to it, you're going to get the highest amount that we're able to provide you. It's just the way it is. So performance matters, right? You're not supposed to do it for pay for play, but gosh darn, it feels that way.
And in addition to performance, also how you are conducting yourself off the field. Your social media now matters. So if, like, for example, you may play an Olympic style sport that doesn't get a lot of fanfare, but if you are, heavy on Instagram and TikTok, you got a couple 100,000 followers, that can now garner you those same NIL deals as though you're playing the basketball or the football as well.
It's interesting that there's gymnastics and volleyball kids that are making more money than football and basketball
players.
Basketball
Yes,
kids.
they are.
Because of like you said, their social media following is so significant that they can post something and get paid for it.
Somebody, I was talking to somebody about the thoughts of the show for today, and one of the questions that they asked me, and it has to deal with social media. You have some high school kids that have a huge social media presence. So now that kid comes to a legitimate D1 school with that social media platform. But maybe he's not necessarily the starter.
Yeah.
And maybe he may end up being a guy that got a scholarship, but he may end up just being a player.
Yeah.
And yet he's, with his social media outlet, he now is pouring in money over money.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Are we good with that? Because I'm trying to figure out old school for myself, and I'm sitting there thinking I'm on the team, I'm playing, and because he's all over TikTok and all over this, he's making this money, and the school's trying to give me $10. And now all of a sudden I'm mad.
Yeah.
Help me with that.
I mean, I guess I would say personality matters. Your sense of business now come into play because, for example, like you take the kid who does the Destroyer League, right? He was a kicker at UCF kind of before the NIL thing. He's a kicker, and if he was kicking now and had that same social media presence, he would be a millionaire. So I think now what comes into play is not just your athletics. If you're looking at NIL, you have to be business savvy. You have to know how to work that social media angle as well. I mean, that's just part of the game now. If that's what you want, I'll say that.
Yeah, it shouldn't matter the role that you play on the team. Now, that's going to help your following. Yeah. But if you come with a following, there's a value in what you've already established for yourself.
For the school.
For the school, for the individual, for whoever is going to pay you the name, image, likeness deal.
Right.
Because you have this following. And I'm good with that. And good for that kid for kind of creating something before he even became part of your program.
Is that something that maybe a coaching staff would take into account if they had that one last scholarship? They got the team set how they wanted. They got one more scholarship, and it's maybe between two guys or two girls. would that come into play as let's take this guy or this girl, she has more, social media stuff. She can give more exposure to the program. Would that come into play at all?
I've never had a conversation with the coach about a student athlete's capability to earn additional or to bring profile to the institution. It's the quality of their play or maybe the family that you want to be a part of, but never about the social media value.
But I'm gonna take it a step further to make it harder on you. Okay. So let's say like I am the kid that's going to get the last scholarship. You've been recruiting me, and to your point, you don't really know yet where I'm going to go, but you do see the value as a student athlete that you would like to offer this last scholarship to. And now I still have that. I have that social media storm behind me. Is that looked at in a positive, or do you even care? Does that help Marshall, or does it even matter to Marshall that, okay, your last scholarship is going to be this guy, this girl who's got this huge social media outlet that is going to have Marshall on social media every day? Not saying that you're looking at that piece of it, because I know that's probably not part of it, but they are a legitimate student athlete that you would offer.
Yeah, let's go with the front still matters more than the back.
Right.
I hope. Yeah. And especially when you're from a brand. Hey, Marshall's a brand.
Definitely.
Right.
100%.
People know it.
Yeah.
And so we're bringing value to you. So you bringing value to us, okay, as long as your identity doesn't overtake our identity.
See, and I think that's the danger.
Yes.
That's the danger.
Well, I'm going to make the case. I'm going to make the case. That's the danger in the Valley. Is there are parents and there are kids who think they are the brand. They are the brand. I'll make the case, when I got to South Charleston, there were some brands there that believed that they were everything.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter what the coach said. It didn't matter who the coach was. This is how we do it. And I think I like that word solely because I think everybody can relate to it.
Yeah. Because I think you're coming in. I think any athlete nowadays, particularly social media, they grew up in that. So you are coming in as a brand. But I think the difference is you have to understand that you're not the brand. You know what I mean?
But
you're a brand, but you're not the brand.
But how do I separate myself as like, okay, so let's say, I got a couple Pro Bowls in, and I done a few things for the Vikings. So when I show up for alumni weekend, I want to be the brand.
Yeah, but you know, and I know
I want to be the brand.
But
right?
and I know it don't work like that. Like you're part of something bigger. But
how do you? But I think the problem is have we communicated that to a high school, a solid high school athlete that's really good? Have we told mom and dad, like, look, he's not the brand. He's going to go to a brand. Or you hope that there's a brand come to look for him so that he can join a brand. When you go to South Charleston High School, win, lose, or draw, you're part of a brand.
Yeah.
You're not the brand. Yeah. And I don't think and I think we've hit the point of what really matters, because if you're going to pay me, you're paying me from the brand. I'm not paying you. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You're paying me to be part of your brand. You're inviting me to be part of your brand. And I think our kids and our parents do not understand that part of it.
That's a hard one. I think they you may be right to some degree in that, but I think but once you get
he will never get me completely right.
He may be right. But I'm saying
I figured it all out.
But he may be right to a degree. But I think that once they get to the collegiate level, once they get on that practice field, that's when that starts to be understood. You know what I mean? I think you understand, maybe you come in, I'm the brand, but once you get on that practice field, you see the other guys competing and how difficult it is to play volleyball or basketball or football at a D1 level, then you start to see.
I think Christian, and help me with this. I think it used to be that way. I think it used to be that way. You can walk into a program and you can look at it. I can remember walking into Minnesota and I'm like looking around and I'm like, oh, okay, this is something totally different.
Yeah.
I think that we have now, I think some of the way that these kids are thinking, and maybe even parents are thinking, they're doing somebody a favor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're doing you a favor for playing for you. Yeah. You know, and one of the things that we were talking about prior to the show is some of the kids in the Valley, a lot of the kids in the Valley are, you know, they look at West Virginia State and UC as like places they don't really want to go. Mm. Okay? Okay. If you don't want to go, but then all of a sudden you have, let's say you take the true top players. Now they don't want to go to Marshall or WVU. So you got two situations here. You got kids who are, quote, better than State and UC. But they don't even want to go to WVU or Marshall. So they want to go somewhere else. And maybe, likely, they might not. They may be perfect for Marshall. They may be perfect for WVU. They may be perfect for State. They may be perfect for UC. But they're not looking at metrics.
Are you saying they're looking at themselves as the brand?
Yes.
They have that mentality?
Because you better be a brand if you can tell State no and UC. And then to think that you can say, I'm not playing at Marshall. I don't want to go to Marshall or WVU. I want to go somewhere else. I want to go somewhere bigger than that. You got to be. I mean, did you not brand yourself?
I guess so.
You guys have kids?
Yeah.
Yes.
How many?
I have one. I have a little grandson coming through the ranks.
I got 4.
Any college athletes in that group?
I might have one.
You might have one.
I might have one. I got all daughters, but I think I'm going to have at least one.
Okay. Mm-hmm. You know, the conversations that you have with your kids about their playing ability, and we all know that there's mom and dads that have been doing that for a really long time. Mm-hmm. And somewhere along the way, the messages have changed. Carl, you're right. The messages have changed. The way it might have been when you were being recruited and what your family told you about what to expect, I think is 100% different today than it was previously. So we call it, in the administrative side, the me virus. It really is about me. And parents are enforcing that onto their kids. And so a coach's job, the old school coach, is how do I get you to believe in something bigger than yourself? And that's still a coaching mantra. We all were coached, and we all had people tell us, today's kid is really the disease of me. They're focused on themselves. They're focused on their own identity. They're focused on what they're going to get. They're focused on how much they're going to play. And then if they don't get their expectations met, they're gone.
Yeah.
And the person coaching them up is a family member, usually a parent. And they're coaching them to leave instead of staying, enduring, finding a way, earning it. It's gone. I don't know how to describe it. The best coaches can get to love and commitment even when a kid isn't playing.
So let me ask a question on top of that, and getting back to the NIL. How do we balance that with like the NIL? Because I think and I think Marshall maybe went through this with a basketball player a year or so ago, where it wasn't a conversation necessarily about whether they love Marshall or love the school or was really doing well in the program. The conversation turned as to, well, I can just earn more over here.
Yeah.
Like how do we balance kind of what you said, that virus of me with the prospects of earning maybe potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars at another institution or area?
At Marshall, we've just decided to be gracious on the way out, right? So two high-profile basketball kids left last year, one for $450,000, one for $200,000. Very transparent with us. We couldn't get that. Yeah, we were going to do some things for sure, and they were going to commit to the community and do some additional NIL efforts to earn that additional opportunity financially. But the other schools just too much money.
Yeah.
And how do you fault a family, a kid, from being able to earn six figures while they're playing college basketball, right?
Yeah.
And so they went and did that, and we replaced with two great kids that we didn't have to do that with. Mm-hmm. And that's just going to be our reality, right, at this level.
Yeah.
So we're going to try to be gracious on the way out, and it sucks that that's the case.
And let me ask just one more follow-up question to that. Is like, because you mentioned you were at Pitt, you were a deputy AD, you had some other jobs within the athletic department. How has the landscape of NIL changed your job? Because a lot of those NIL deals are kind of filtered through you. So how has that changed your job and your department and kind of what you're looking at?
They still have the line of demarcation. They're still telling collegiate athletic departments that you can't control these outcomes. You can't set up and facilitate these opportunities. It has to come from a trust or a collective. So we have weekly, monthly, quarterly kind of updates with our collective, our trust. We call it the Thunder Trust. Trying to ensure that the right student athletes are having the right opportunities to earn from their name, image, and likeness.
And just for those who don't know, I'm sorry to cut you off, the trust, they help facilitate and find these different deals for the athletes, correct?
They do.
Okay, gotcha.
They do.
I just want to make that for the people who don't know.
And at Marshall, the way we built it, the way our trust built it, was a community agency that you care about. So you're a donor, you're an investor, you're a corporate partner. You want to give to the Thunder Trust. You want to support student athletes, name, image, and likeness. Maybe you're a philanthropic donor to the Boys and Girls Club. Mm-hmm. You say, hey, I want X student athlete to help the Boys and Girls Club with an event that they're having. In return, here's the name, image, likeness opportunity that I'll provide them. Can you arrange that Thunder Trust? That's how we do it at Marshall. Gotcha. Yeah. So we're essentially paying a kid to do community service that supports the philanthropic efforts of somebody who cares about that agency and who wants to help a student athlete.
They're working for a nonprofit.
They're working for a nonprofit. That's for the most part what we're doing. We did a little something.
I like that idea. I actually like that.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, I like
it
that.
feels like the right thing to do. I wish kids just wanted to volunteer.
Yeah.
But that's just not how it works anymore.
Yeah.
I got a brand. My name will help you. So I'll go work that camp, but you got to compensate me.
Yeah.
And that's what our student athletes are doing. Good for them. And they're able to pour into a young kid trying to figure out if he wants to be a college athlete, he or she, and they, in return, work the camp and make some revenue.
That's not a bad way of looking at it.
No, it's not. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, we got to take a break, and we will be right back with Let's Talk.
Contact Carl Lee on email. Let's talk carllee@gmail.com or text 409-422-7539.
You're listening to Let's Talk with Carl Lee. Sponsorship opportunities are available. Email letstalk@promessage.com or call 304-342-8131. For more information, visit WCHSnetwork.com/Let's Talk. Now, back to the conversation.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Carl Lee, and this is Let's Talk, and we're just coming out of a break. And if you missed the earlier conversation, it was very informative. And going to pick up on it just a little bit before we kind of slide out and move to something else. Kristen, I'm wondering, there's conversation about the potential of NIL coming at the high school level.
Yeah.
And and one of the things that are interesting that I want to talk to you about a little bit later on, I think we're going to make a mistake, pretty much like we made the mistake with the transfer. We're going to mess things up. And the reason why I think that is because when you look at certain schools and you look at the dynamics of the athletes that are in that school, who do they look like versus another school that looks another way? So if you're talking about a black school, a school that has a majority of black athletes, then you got another school that's predominantly white. The community is what we know it is in both of those scenarios. How does that work in the community that does not have a lot of money? So how do we balance that? Why would we do that? I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm I'm bringing the race card into it. So
Well, the audience has brought it up too. So.
Okay. Yeah. I'm bringing the race part of it in is because if you're on the west side, you know, and you may have some athletes, but where that, you know, how they're going to get paid, who's going to pay them, versus if you're in South Hills, you may easily be able to find somebody who can pay you $2,000 or $3,000.
I'm saying,
you know,
so you're saying it in reference to how your socioeconomic kind of where you're at and your connectivity to different,
and then the ability to recruit away a kid from a school that might not have the same resources.
Absolutely. I'm not staying at a school. Let me rephrase it. If it's possible, and I'm gonna make the case, if my mom and dad feel like there is a way that we can make money, we as the family can make money, and we move to another place that has those resources for me because I am a good player, versus me trying to stay on the west side, me trying to stay in any community that is not funded that way.
Yeah.
I think you gotta go. And whether you move or not, you got to do something.
And I'll definitely want you to answer that, Coach. But in addition to that, what do you think about because NIL's coming to high school? Yeah. So you can answer kind of both those questions. I know it's difficult.
All right, now we are getting philosophical in here. I can see how you two.
I'm tough. I just want to put it out there. I just want to be as straightforward as I can be.
All right, so let me put my athletic director hat on. You know, short plays and long plays, moms and dads, people who care about their children. You know, the short play isn't as important as the long one. And who coaches your son or daughter and the impact, the direct impact that they get to have on their life after they leave that program. You need to consider that. So, yes, maybe one school has more resources, but there might be a coach at the school that you're at that deeply cares about your kid and is making them a better person. How do you, that value, that's when I hire a head coach, they get to have a direct impact on somebody else's son or daughter. So I take it really seriously, and I want a great person mentoring that young person. You're not fully developed. I don't care what anyone tells you. A 17 to 21-year-old doesn't know what they don't know.
25, I would spend that to 25.
And they need adults to continue to care about them and pour into them and tell them where they're going. Quick anecdotal story. I grew up, I worked at a school in Northern Illinois, and I lived in a small community just outside of DeKalb. The high school basketball coach had his assistant coaches coaching the third grade team all the way up to eighth grade.
That's what we've been talking about.
And I asked him, hey, man, why do you have all your assistants? Because I want those kids, when they get to high school, to know every play, to know every out-of-bounds play, to know all the calls, to care about one another. And I want to see how they all develop, because that third grader might end up being our best kid in 12th grade, right? And if I can get them now and teach them early, we're going to win. And sure enough, that school had multiple conference titles, multiple state championships because of the philosophy that he had about starting young. So I was thrilled to live in that community where the coaches was so smart that he started to develop them at a really young age. And it didn't matter if you lost when you were third, fourth, and fifth grade, because he was playing the long game. And wanting them to be great.
Our problem with the long game are the adults in the room.
Yeah. And just in reference to that long game, let me just ask a question, because we had a question on here, and one of the comments was just like the schools, the brands that we talk about coming into the brand, they tend to exploit the athlete. And my thought about NIL was like, to me, that sort of balance the scales of justice, if you will, in that now I can be compensated for my time there, whether it be long or short. So do you think, in addition to that, the NIL, to me, it prolongs the college athlete's career, because now I'm Caleb Williams. I don't have to go to the NFL right now. You know what I mean? So doesn't that help college sport and sort of balance those scales?
Christian, hold that thought right there, because I gotta get this. Okay, so a coach is exploiting a kid?
No, not necessarily the coach. Just like the program, and how college
just help me
athletics were.
Explain to me what that is. Explain to me what that is. How? So let me
this
make
ain't my
I know it's not yours. I know
This
it's
ain't
not
me.
yours, but it's on your phone. It came to your phone.
Okay.
So if they're listening, I'm trying to. My question is this:
Hey, help me out.
when do you think that? How does a kid get exploited? Like.
Well, I guess prior.
if you're playing,
hold on. Prior to NIL, it was just like we know, like the coaches got the money from the shoe deal, the schools got the money from the revenue sharing, as far as this TV deal.
Okay,
the kid got nothing.
But we're
other
talking
than the
about college.
scholarship.
We're talking about college.
We're talking about college. Yeah.
Okay, because I was going to say high school.
Well, we're not talking about not necessarily high school.
Okay,
because
that was my concern. Because I don't see how any high school athlete can be exploited.
No. We're talking about college.
Okay.
Yeah, because my thing is, I thought the NIL sort of balanced that. You know what I mean? It balanced that where the kid can now get something.
If you want to say it's balanced, if you're there,
I said it can be. I'm not saying it is.
Okay,
yeah.
but here's what I'm saying. Here's the balance. Okay, here's how my mom saw balance.
Yeah.
Okay, she didn't count not one win or a loss at Marshall. You know what she counted? The lack of money she had to pay for my 4 years of education. So
the money she saved?
Yeah, the money she saved.
Yeah.
So I don't know, when you're playing sports on a scholarship, if you're playing sports at all, unless you're in the pros, you can't make a case that you're being exploited. You're playing. If you're playing,
some people will make that argument.
But,
I don't necessarily agree with that.
You don't agree with me, or you don't agree?
No, I don't agree with the exploited.
Yeah,
I don't
know how
necessarily
you do that.
agree with that, but I understand. Like I said, if you're at a USC and you're making billions of dollars, and the athlete doesn't have access to anything, then I think
the
that
owners
could
in
be
the owners in the National Football League, the owners in the NBA, the owners of all the major sports are absolutely exploiting the sport as a whole to make billions of dollars. But players are making hundreds of millions of dollars. I was exploited in the NFL. Okay, I made $40,000 as a rookie in my pro career.
That was exploited.
That's exploited because the money was the NFL money was still good. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the teams were making money, the league was making money, and they just wasn't paying.
Yeah, the 40 bands.
That's I know being exploited. Okay, and I thought I was halfway good. I got a little this and a little that behind my name. They trying not to pay me. I'm going in negotiating, and they're telling me no.
You know what the real issue is? The real issue isn't exploitation. The real issue is the average head coaching salary in the SEC is $7 million. Wow. That's the real issue. Because moms and dads and people who pay attention to the sport, that team in the SEC that finishes last or second to last or third to last, that head coach made $7 million. And those kids didn't. And that's the problem. So will we eventually get to a pay-for-play model because we, the industry, the enterprise, can't control ourselves enough to own, or the market isn't reacting fast enough to the escalation in coaching salaries? That they don't need to make $7 million.
No.
They do not.
And with major buyouts too.
Yeah,
that's the other part of it.
That's a key.
Yeah. And that was my point earlier, just to the degree that I feel like the NCAA, they fumbled this, because this could have been rectified years ago if you just create that revenue sharing model where, like I said, maybe you don't need to make 7, although I would argue they need to make a significant amount, because again, that would
job security,
and that's what drives people to the school. People aren't going to the Colorado Buffaloes just because they want to hang out in Boulder. They're going because Deion's there, right? So he can drive enrollment. He drives the profile of the school, different things of that nature. So you need to be compensated, but it's a way to do that, but also raise everybody else's level.
And in this conversation, I'll now say this to money to the athlete.
Yeah,
I can see money going to the athlete, like I said, but I think it's in a structure. I don't care what the top is, but I think everybody on that roster, everybody who's coming to my school to play, has to get something.
But I think, but okay, I'll challenge you that because I'll challenge you on that. How do we balance that? Because I think in our minds, we're football guys, so we're thinking about the football team. But how do we balance that against the golf team, the swim team, the lacrosse team, where we're taking? Because now the football Title IX prevents us from just paying football, basketball, and women's basketball. We got to pay everybody.
And I'm curious of what you will say to this, but my response to that is. That might be the AD's job. That might be the president's job. They have to figure that out. Now, that means maybe everybody's getting less money to where we can fit it in the budget. Mm-hmm. If we can't fit it in the budget, we got to go out and get some boosters to make sure it fits. But I don't know.
Yeah, the model can't come into the intercollegiate athletic program for compensation purposes because we'll have to have equity. You're absolutely right. We're going to have to treat athletes similar. So it needs to stay outside of intercollegiate athletics if we're going to move to that model, and they'll determine a value. The great thing about the market will determine a value. USA Today did a piece maybe 2 decades ago. It's been a long time where they did the value of a collegiate basketball student athlete and the value of an NCAA football athlete. And it was at the time it was about $150,000.
I remember reading that.
Yeah. So they would, in theory, establish that value, and that is what the media contract would pay, probably through a conference office, not through an athletic program or the NCAA. The conference office will likely act as the middleman. If you guys remember the BCS system, it was negotiated by the conference commissioners, and so was the college football playoff, right? So they likely would receive all the revenue and then determine how that revenue is split by the individual athletes that they serve on the different teams.
That's interesting. So basically, what would happen is through the media contracts and through endorsements and different negotiation, the market would determine, well, this volleyball player is worth X amount, or this football player is worth X amount. Just in your mind and just theoretically speaking, would this come in like far as position, far as like, well, if you made all conference or if you made all American, then this is where you're at? Would it be like that nuance, or we're just talking about just this is just what these various athletes are worth?
And if it is that, should it be capped for everybody who's in that bracket?
You can only go this high.
Yeah, you can only go this high.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is going to sound scary, guys, but they become employees. Mm-hmm. And just like any employee, they can be fired. Just like any employee, they can get a raise. Just like any employee, they can renegotiate their agreement. That's what it would become.
Yeah.
Now, where does the value of the education come in, and how does that get paid for? I don't think they'll get to do both. And that's the thing that people forget. I think the new model would be, if you're an employee, Carl, at Marshall University, you receive a tuition remission where you can take classes because of your status as an employee. You might want to get a master's degree or just further educate yourself. I'm going to take a class. The school pays for a portion of that because you work for them. That's what the new arms race will be. Some schools waive 100% of your tuition if you're an employee. Some schools waive 50%. Some schools you still got to pay.
Yeah.
So the kid is going to receive a salary. The salary will be taxed. A lot of the benefits that we currently pay for, we won't pay for anymore. We don't need 10 strength coaches because you're going to have a personal trainer because you're a paid athlete now.
Yeah.
Just like there's one strength coach on an NFL roster. Carl knows this, and the rest are interns because they negotiated for OTAs. So there's only 2 weeks out of the year that you actually have to be required to be there with the strength coach for sports performance. It'll be very similar in our game, and there'll be more revenue in the system because there'll be less expenses, so the student athlete will get paid more. It's a scary model that I don't think they really understand.
Well, and I'm curious, and I don't think anybody can answer this, but I'm curious about maybe what you think. TV networks who carry these games, they're making a whole host of money. Now, I am not sure. I don't know this to be, you will know this. I don't know if any of that money funnels back to the teams. But to me, seemingly, if I'm bringing you something, I'm bringing you this revenue, I'm creating this revenue for you because you're covering my game. I would like to think that some of that revenue should be spread out amongst the players. Because does it go to it goes to the school and or directly to the athletic department, correct?
It goes to the conference office. And then the conference office issues us a revenue distribution.
Do they take any of that?
They do. Most conferences take a share of that revenue distribution for, cost associated with running the conference office.
So, and I guess my question was just some more like a fanboy question. But one of the things that I think has maybe an unintended consequences when we talk about NIL and kind of the destructuring of what a student athlete is or was, to me, it seems like it's manifested into kind of the destruction of conferences and how we think about it. Like, for example, Washington is going to play, I believe, in the Big Ten.
Yes.
So do you think kind of not just NIL itself, but just the concept and the theory of how that works and how it's being related on maybe a bigger level is kind of, just changing how we feel about like college football? Because I remember like Marshall in the MAC. I love Marshall in the MAC. I understand you got to move on bigger and better and everything like that, but I love like the rivalries like WVU and the Big East. That was like what you grew up on, and those teams in close proximities. You had those rivalries. We knew we was playing, and that really got the fans in an uproar, and it kept that that college football tradition alive. So do you think if we're going to move this way and we'll move them to a more NFL model, and I just made this a very long question.
Yeah.
Do you think it hurts college athletics if we're just kind of move to like maybe a one system deal?
Yeah, we blew it up. It's over. What you and I remember college football being or the rivalries, I think they're gone forever. We're going to try to remanufacture them. Yeah. We are. Yeah. The reality is the Big Ten Conference, I think it's almost $88 million is the projected payout. Yeah. When they renegotiate with the new teams that are in it, USC, UCLA.
Is that per team?
$88 million per team is the projected. Yes. Yeah. So of course you're going to join that opportunity, and
you can't help it.
And I think we're probably moving towards an NFL model. The NFL model, just like all the other professional sports models, they don't do it by division. They do it by league. We're in the process of creating our college football league. Yeah. And these are the representatives of it. Yeah. And, it's not going to be the NFC North. It's going to be the Big Ten. It's not going to be the AFC South. It's going to be the SEC. But you get the point. Yeah. They're going to come together eventually and charge billions. Because right now they're making hundreds of millions, but they can make billions if they got on the same page, got everyone together. Unfortunately, you have everyone doing their own thing. SEC wants what they want. Big Ten wants what they want. ACC is trying to keep it all together. Big 12's adding new schools.
Pac-12 is dead.
Pac-12 is gone, right?
But they're playing really good football now.
All by design.
Wow.
To eventually have one entity that makes billions.
So let me ask and just from a Marshall standpoint, do you think there's ever going to be a situation in which we take the non-Power 5 quote unquote teams, the Marshall Sun Belt Conference USA, different things where it would be similar, where they would have their own playoff system and they would name their own championship, as opposed, and maybe you could play up if you were at that level, but do you ever think there's a opportunity where teams situated like Marshall would have their own playoff and kind of their own league adjacent to the bigger league?
There'll be a lot of conversation about that. There will. But the reality is I want Marshall to have access to the CFP.
Got you.
I want to be the first team in a 12-team playoff from the Sun Belt, Marshall, to be that team. So I want access to that for Marshall, for our university, for our brand, for the people who care about our program.
That's what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah, so I'd rather do that than play
the NIT.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right? I just would. And there'll be a reality on the financial side if we're the team that's chosen. There'll be millions in the system for us, which I can reinvest in our program, reinvest in our experiences, and be better for it.
And see, I guess that's my point, Coach, is that if we're asking, we can't ask kids to do something that the university's not doing, because to Coach's point, they're in an arms race to get to these conferences, to get that bigger share of the revenue. So we can't ask kids to say, hey, well, I don't want to have a piece of that as well, as far as the NIL is concerned.
I truly, my issue is not with the NIL on its face. My issue is capping it and making sure everybody gets a chance to touch it.
Okay.
To get a piece of it.
Yeah.
From top to bottom. Because I can't imagine, because I don't know how I can feel part of the brand if I'm on a team. I'm working every single day. And I'm getting no dollar.
You eating ramen, and he driving a Rolls Royce.
Yeah, I'm watching him. I know that car. I know Marshall bought that car. Yeah. I know Marshall put him in that apartment.
If Carl was a college student athlete today, he would have gone to Utah. Right?
Yeah. Did you see that?
Yeah. Everyone got a car. Everyone got the same car.
Yeah, I did see that.
That's wild.
I'm putting in my notice. I'm like, Christian, hey, I'm out this year. I'm going to Utah. Because I need
one of those trucks.
I need one of them vehicles, man. But again, I just think I see it as after playing in the league and seeing and watching it even today, the difference in the money, but at least everybody's getting something.
Yeah.
I can't imagine being on a team making all this money. It would be hard. Trust me, it would be hard. Some people say, nah, that wouldn't be. For me, it would be hard for me to take this big chunk and know that you're sitting at the bottom of the pole, you just here for practice and you get nothing. That would be hard.
I think to that point, the one of the beauties and sort of that camaraderie is built by, like, we're all on this team. We eating bologna sandwich and ramen noodles.
Yeah,
that's kind of the beauty of it. And I see your point that, hell, if I'm, if you got a guy who's making $200,000 a year and we're getting $500 a month stipend checks, that creates sort of that imbalance. So I see what you're saying.
I think it's tough for that side of it.
Yeah.
But I know we beat this up for a minute, but I want to come back to something, because one of the other things I want us to be able to address that I think that Christian, I think that you can help folks on. And this is my parent speech.
Okay, here we go.
You do not have a say. Okay? First of all, what you should do is you should watch your child, celebrate him at home, celebrate him in the bleachers. I don't care. Hey, way to go, Johnny. Da-da-da-da-da. But at the end of the day, if you're hanging on the fence, if you're doing all these kind of things, and there's another kid that's equal, me and you are equal. My folks is like all over the place. They yelling at the coach. They hanging over the fence. They threatening the coach. If Marshall's looking at us, your parents are doing all the right stuff. My parents is they at the coach. Yeah. They at the fence. They doing all that. Christian, what's the recommendation for you to the coaches of which one of those players you gonna take?
Okay, quick anecdotal before I answer it. I read an article just the other day. I was telling Carl this on the way in. 7 out of 10 kids are talked out of playing the next year by their mom and dad on the drive home from a game. If you think about the critique that you gave your own kids when they played a game on the way home, you might have inadvertently talked your kid out of playing again because we're tough on our kids. We give them critical feedback, or we overly praise them, and our ego is kind of made whole by the performance of our son or daughter. And believe it or not, they don't play for that.
Say that again, because somebody's out there who is not going to get that. Say that again, please, Christian, because I need these folks to hear this because they don't get it.
Yeah. Mom and dad, let your child play for the love of the game. Develop that in them. And then that is where your fulfillment comes in. That they found something that they're passionate about and they care about. Because if they're passionate about football, someday they're going to be passionate about their spouse, their family, their earning potential, their education.
That's a fact.
That's what you're creating. You're not creating somebody who deserves praise for their efforts. You're creating somebody who wants these things in their life.
And willing to work for it.
And willing to work for it, right? So on the recruiting side, man, we absolutely talk about it. So we'll have a visit. We'll meet mom and dad. We'll meet the family. It could be close between one kid or another. And we'll literally say in a room, do we want that parent in our program for 4 or 5 years?
Wow. And say that again. Say that again, because I don't want them to miss that. Because I say this all the time.
It's true.
That it is you as a parent are part of the recruiting process. maybe even bigger than your son or daughter. Yeah. So you can repeat it again in case they missed it, because I don't want them to hate me because I'm trying to tell them the truth.
Let's have them hate me.
They'll hate us both.
Let's spin it positive instead, Carl.
Okay, I'm with you.
There is a parent that you want in your program. The parent that will say to you, help my kid learn accountability. Help my kid learn how to manage his existence on his own. Help him be a part of something bigger than himself. And I'm all in. And if he or she ever moves off that line, you let me know, and I'll redirect him to where that parent we want all day long. The parent that calls and says, why is my kid playing? How come he didn't get what the other kid got? When's he going to get his? Man, we can, there's 20 of those. We want the one that stands there and says, I'll help you hold my kid accountable.
Wow. I mean, ain't no arguing with that. You heard it from the horse's mouth, right?
And look, and talking about, I can give you the example. My dad, and we've had this conversation, I've said this probably 1,000 times on here already. After I played, even from 7th grade all the way to Marshall, I'm going home to sit down with my dad to talk about the bad plays. Yeah. We had the same dream. He wanted, and he didn't push me. I wanted to go. I wanted to play on Sunday. So all he wanted to know was to tell me why you missed this tackle. Tell me why you missed that. I was accountable for that, and I hated it. Yeah. Until I was sitting in my locker knowing that I had made the team. And I thought to myself, that's what Dad was talking about. Yeah. Because it's those bad plays. I'm trying to make this very clear to the parents that are standing on the fence, that think it's the coach. You just heard some advice that if I said it, you'd have never heard it. You would never believe it. You'd be like, oh man, he don't know what he's talking about. I brought somebody who's an expert in the room to try to help you with it. Let your kid be the best player he can be or she can be, and allow them to work hard. Put the effort in, put extra time in. If you're just going to practice, that ain't enough. Unless you're, it's not enough.
You can't do that.
It's
nowadays.
just not enough.
Yeah.
And I say this all the time, and I don't mean that Randy Moss, Jason Williams, those kind of people did not work. But if you're that guy, if you're those guys, everybody knows it. Yeah. We don't have to say, what's your son's name? Yeah. Where does he play?
Those are far and few between.
Those are far and few. I was not one of those guys. Yeah. So the chances of you being anybody, the chances are you could be me. You can be that kid that nobody thinks is going to make it, but you got to be up at 5:30. You got to be on the road running to 5:30. You got to find a weight room. You got to buy some plastic weights, pump them until all the concrete falls out of them. You got to do that. And parents, unfortunately, there is nothing that you can do that's going to make him any better other than to tell him, if you want something, you have to go get it. Yes. And you have to put in the work. No school is going to think or is going to want you with no work ethic. Yeah. They're going to pick somebody else. And parent, if you are out there and you're doing the yelling and screaming, stop. Let your son play. Teach him another lesson. Don't, because his lesson of hearing you out there, I never heard my dad ever say anything to a coach or to me during a game. He would never say anything. His rule, he ain't coaching. He's not the coach is the dad at that point. Yeah. I'm the son when I'm sitting at the table the next morning.
And to that point, just to, and I want to ask you a question about the Georgia State, the Georgia game we just played in Marshall. To that point, I tell people, because I've helped draft a couple of NIL deals as far as the contractual side is concerned, and I always tell the parents, like, worry about on the field first. Don't think NIL first. Right. Worry about like being that guy being that girl or guy on the field or court first. Then the NIL deals will follow. Yeah. So just quickly.
Hey, let me finish on something Carl said. Hey, what you do when no one else is watching is the difference. And moms and dads need to pour that into their sons and daughters. What you do when no one else is watching is going to be the difference in success or failure. Muhammad Ali, what you do in the dark always comes out in the light. Yeah. And he meant that on so many different levels. Yes. 100%. On so many different levels.
That's my guy right there. Yeah. So we had a tough loss this week.
Yeah, we did.
I thought we just self-destructed, man. I watched the game, and we had every opportunity. It just we kind of just let it almost one of them games where you just let it slip out your hand.
Yeah, we could be 6-0.
Yeah,
right?
easily.
And instead, we're 4-2, and we scored a lot of points 2 games in a row, but we gave up a lot of points 2 games in a row. So we've got some work to do and trying to figure it all out. But gosh, we can be really, really good.
We got some dogs on that team.
It's
man.
all still in front of us.
Yeah.
Now it's hard for us because we're looking at 4-2, but we could be 6-0. But can you make it a November to remember and do something crazy special the rest of the way and try to get to a championship game?
Because we don't have a was Georgia State?
It was Georgia State.
Yeah.
We don't. Is that conference? Is that a conference game?
It was.
So that's the one.
So we're
They're
one
in conference now.
Yeah,
right?
we're 1-1.
Okay.
Right. So NC State was obviously another ACC team. We beat Virginia Tech, which was awesome. Played NC State all the way to the wire again. Could have won that game, and then came back at Georgia State. And now on 5 days rest, we're playing JMU 6-0
ball team too
on Thursday night on national TV. So if there's a game to kind of pick up and watch, it's this Thursday night.
Coach Huff doing a great job there. I like Coach Huff.
I love him, man. I love him. I like everything about him. I like the fun he has when they're doing something good. I like the passion he goes when things are bad. So I'm good.
He's the real deal.
Yes.
We've got somebody that had amazing experiences at other places, was mentored by some really good people. Say what you want about James Franklin and Nick Saban, but they poured into Coach Huff.
Yeah.
So he's got a lot of that kind of mindset, and he treats our kids like men, and he also knows that they're not all there yet. Yeah. So he's still developing. He doesn't demean a single kid. He develops everyone. Nice. And that's the fine line that coaches have to walk, and he's learned how to walk it from some really special people in the business.
Nice.
Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I really think this was one of my favorite shows.
Yes, definitely.
Because I really believe that there was information. We got information today. Like it or not, we got it. You can do what you want with it, but we try to give it to you. We will be back. This is Carl Lee, and this is Let's Talk. We'll be back with you again soon. We're gone.
The opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of WVRC Media, its management, employees, or sponsors. Contact Carl Lee on email, letstalkcarllee@gmail.com, or text 409-422-7539.